experimental study can be defined as involving the random assignment of participants into different groups in order to determine the causal effect, which is the independent variable, of a certain outcome, which is a dependent variable. This design supports the hypothesis and the insight to cause and effect by demonstrating what the outcome is. It's controlled way and control all the variables except the one you are going to change because you want to see the effect of the different variables. There are 3 types of way that experimental designs can be controlled. One is repeated measures. This means that you can repeat under different conditions. The second is independent group, which is different groups of individuals participating in each condition. The third is matched pairs. This is compromised and the conditions are done by different participants, but some match characteristics, for example, height and experience. Option A, increase the level of flexibility in the hamstring and lower back for a gymnast. This is an example of experimental studies because it could be different groups of gymnasts or individuals participating in the same thing under different conditions. The advantages of experiment is the test is easily repeated, therefore the results could be more reliable, and the observer is under controlled condition, which means the results are achieved. This means because they're controlled, there's no way that the results can be changed or adjusted so what the results are true. The test is easily repeated because it'll be quite a simple test, and there's a lot of people that can compete under different conditions to get results. Disadvantages can create artificial situations due to conditions they're studying and the impact on their results. So this means depending on the conditions means you can get different results. Also, it's quite expensive, and this because it requires a lab because it's quite high technical experiments, and it can be subjective, which leads to human error and high levels of variable control. It can be influenced by a person's feeling or opinions. They could change how they think to get better results to better fit the hypothesis. The second bit is research sources, which is primary and secondary data. Primary data can be defined as data that you collect through questionnaires, interviews, observations, which you use to investigate problems. So primary data basically means you carry out the research yourself, and your results and your way that you conduct the experiments, everything done is yours. An example linking to gymnastics is primary data is if you are the researcher, you have conducted a research on how gymnasts to see if gymnasts' speed improve on vault by doing the 30-meter sprint test. This is primary data because this is your experiment and you've conducted it and you've controlled all the variables so that you get the results that are yours. The advantages of primary data is reliable because it's your results, so you know that they're correct. Also, it's accurate because you're going to roughly get the same amount of results because you've used the same to conduct your test. It's also direct because it's a topic that you're going on investigation. It's up-to-date research because you would have recently done it, and it would be advantages. It could be biased because you could change your results due to you wanting to have the best results and the best and you could adapt these to get this. It also takes a lot of time because you have to go through conducting the whole experiment, getting participants, making sure they volunteer, making the hypothesis and the method and the conclusion to get your results. And it might cost a lot because the experiment you might be doing might be expensive. On the other hand, there's secondary data. This can be defined defined as previously published data found in books, journals, government publications, websites, or other forms of data. So basically, secondary data is other people's research. So research that you look at, read through, that someone else has conducted the experiment with. An example of this could be comparing your results from your speed test for vault for young British gymnasts to someone else's data, or reading someone else's data on speed for vault to conduct your experiment to get better results and see what you have to do to be able to get these results. The advantage is this is quick and accessible because you can find it on the internet and in books. It's cheap because you just look online, and anyone can collect the data because you can find it everywhere. The disadvantage is the quality and the credibility, because you don't know how they've conducted the test, or if it's biased, or how they've got their results and how good their results are, which links it being unreliable because you don't know what they've done. And insignificant detail, there might not be enough detail for your experiment. Next is the classification of data. So you have qualitative and quantitative data. Of data is also the levels of measurements. Qualitative data is data based on feelings and opinions with used questionnaires and interviews, where quantitative data is more number based and is more objective. Qualitative data uses the classifications of data of nominal and ordinal, whereas quantitative is interval and ratio. Nominal data is data where the participants are put in categories that are named and is clearly defined, and this usually gives a frequency and is less informative. It's also a scale where participants are put into categories and counted. For example, height, you could be categorized in either over 5.5 foot or under. And also qualitative is there's ordinal data, which gives different sizes doesn't give size difference, and it's ranked order. For example, like a league table, so you'd have 1, 2, and 3. So, for example, in football, the highest points would go at the top, but it's limited and is more informative than nominal data, because nominal data is less informative. The points difference between 1 and 2, it could be 8 points or 38 points. The other, you can't be in both groups. With ratio data, the numerical value and can have decimal places, which has equal intervals. Ratio data is an absolute 0, and you can't have no decimal place or go below 0. Ratio data has proportional equal units of measurements. Ratio scales range from 0 upwards and cannot have negative scores. For example, your heart rate cannot be below 0 and time cannot be below 0. So your heart rate will be above 0. Whereas interval is the opposite, where it has a numerical value and can have decimal places. An example of this is temperature, because you could have 36.5 degrees and 0 has a meaning. Interval data is based on a scale that has equal intervals of measurements with equal intervals between each score. So an example of interval data is temperature post-workout, and this is because your temperature could be quite low and have decimal places, whereas an example of ratio is 1 rep max on a squat because you can't do less than 0 squats. There's also discrete data, which is separate, isolated, or opposite values. It's either yes or no, left. For example, you're either yes or no, left or right, male or female. This means that there's only 2 answers and there's 2 categories.